Hey everybody, this is Grace, and pardon the view. It is what it is. I want to talk about basically narcissism and more like versus, in a way, Christianity. Now, it could be other religions, but I'm Christian, so I'm going to use Christianity. And my thoughts on this, I want to say up front that my thoughts are developing, and I am not a voice of authority on Christianity. Like I said, I am a Christian. I always have been ever since I was a child. And I'm also a scientist. My degrees are in psychology and sociology. I have a master's in sociology and taught at college and university. And I know the first thing that many people say is you can't be a scientist and be religious at the same time. False. There, said it, false. Okay. And that is going to play a part in what I want to talk about. But like I said, my thoughts on this are developing. I've reserved the right to change my mind on anything, any of my videos. So, yeah, let me get started. Okay. One thought I have is about when a person was a child, okay, were they introduced to Christianity, as a child? There are so many different ways that people, ways to this, let's just say that. But for some, it was that they were never introduced. They didn't have any kind of role model, like a parent that took them to church, and it was a good experience, a good role model, good experience, that they would connect it that way. Some, they went to church or were forced to go to church, and maybe the person who, or one of, a parent, say, was one that beat them, beat them outside, abused them in some way outside of the church, and they connected the dots that way. The church, this is what they're learning in church. My parent or whomever, the abuser, is learning in church that it's okay to beat the child. Spare the rod, spoil the child is not in the Bible. Okay, I can go on down the road with that. And so they connect the dots that way. So they turn away from it. Now, my own experience was, the one who was abusing me took me to church, but the church itself, the people in the church, they were most of them were very holy people. And it was like a sanctuary. It was just so calming. And as a sociologist, I'm well aware of what Mark said. So nobody needs to remind me. My view on it was so. That was it. So, okay, it was calming to people. Now you can see that, I've been making videos recently more about, this coronavirus. As a sociologist, I'm not an expert on it. I'm not a voice of authority on the coronavirus, and I'm connecting it to that too. This narcissism, this, mainly a lack of faith in people. Okay, in some people. I'm getting ahead of myself. But now I think that people who say had whatever experience, there's so many different types of experiences they can have very young. And some would say that chicken or the egg, or is there a blend, or what, that it's caused them to turn away from really having any role model, any mentor, role models or mentors, anything outside of themselves that they feel that they can trust. Okay, as a child, they start developing this. This is just my view. I don't have any research to back it up, but this is just my view, and I could be wrong. But they so they have. I really do feel that a lot of the people who are very narcissistic, that's how it is. They really didn't have anybody, so it became more of like a habit, part of their personality, their character. As they grew older, and they just did not have any faith in anybody or anybody from that childhood that they could look up to and say, I want to model myself after them. I want to be like them. I want to be whatever, to trust trust my religion. When we're talking about religion, it could be other things. And so they grow up just turning it all within themselves, that, they trust themselves. And they could even have, a sibling like me who didn't have the same reaction, didn't connect with the dots that way, who instead saw it, this is a sanctuary, this is where people are truly holy, these are the people I want to model myself after. I want to feel that the peace that you see within them, you see this, okay, and so forth. Their faith, you see it. It's like you can see it. Yes. And they might see that sibling as another person they can't go to because that other sibling is not connecting the dots the same way. So they can't trust that other sibling. This kind of thing. And as, like I said, as they grow and develop, they just turn inward to where any trust they have in themselves and not even in themselves. Okay, both. Some would just call them lost souls. Some would call it that. Yeah, and so I think that this is something that I really do feel because, now, let's say that this is younger generation. Let's divide this up. I can't say this is perfect, but let's just say Gen X and older, and then those who are younger, two different groups. Gen X older, those who are younger. And say that, okay, another thing is like my generation, when I was young, if you mention, when I was, say, a child, if you let people know that you were a Christian, that you were religious, whatever, in my little, corner of the world at the time, remember, we didn't have social media back then like this, platforms. We didn't have, we only had 3 channels on TV. We didn't get to see what the world was doing. We didn't get to see that much outside of it as you do today. And so my little corner of the world back then may have been different in a, probably was, it was different in other places. And, the way people saw it. But then, back then, if you, mentioned that you were Christian, there was no negative feedback. But as time went by, and I've mentioned this in video before, as time went by, it became, back then if you said you were basically atheist, I don't even know if people use the term, or agnostic, agnostic they didn't say, they just said that they're not there yet, If you said you were an atheist, you were pretty much shamed, okay? And then as time went by, it flip-flopped, okay? And, these days people will look at you like you're, not everybody. None of this is everybody when I say people. But the people who would do this, they look at you like you are this, you just fell off the turnip truck. It's an expression some people use. Like you are just this innocent and you are naive and you are stupid. They might even look at you like that and somehow shame you. Basically that you should, especially like if you're a scientist, you should be ashamed of yourself if you're a Christian or, you believe in any religion. You should be ashamed of yourself. And that just it worsened. It just worsened. Okay, so some people from Gen X up, they may have learned to just keep silent about it. Okay, their religious beliefs, just to, if they were religious, to keep silent. And some just lost faith. Some just walked away from it because they were taught to feel so ashamed. They were humiliated. They were whatever. So who are the role models? Okay, for the younger generations. Think about it. Okay. All right, it's later in the day. I don't know. It's almost 1 o'clock, and that was, I made that video, this video earlier this morning, so I don't know where I left off. But yeah, I was talking about, people not having really, well, where I was going with it was people really, too many people not having any kind of introduction into their religion. Like I said, I was talking about Christianity, and or what they had caused them to shy away, something along this line, and really not having anything outside of them or anybody outside of themselves to see as somebody to look up to, or to model their behavior, or to, like when you read, you go to church, you learn how to behave in some ways. Yeah. I have just way too much going on here in the view. But, yeah, I mean, you learn valuable lessons on how to treat other people, how to treat yourself, how to behave all around, to think about things, to, just from there. But some people, they don't have that kind of introduction. They shy away from it, like I said, whatever I have already said. And then they just turn and think of themselves as that way. You may have heard people say that they know people who are narcissistic, let's just say narcissistic, and they think that they don't believe in any kind of thing, like they don't believe in God or Jesus. They don't believe in any kind of faith, but they act as though they are that. Okay, that they are the ones everybody should follow. And I think that's one of the things that can help to bring this about, at least. And eventually, like I said, my thoughts on this is they're just developing. And eventually I want to get around to connecting this to why I worry especially a lot about it now because of the coronavirus pandemic. And when you have a lot of people who are very narcissistic, you see what I'm saying? And also I'm not just talking about those who are younger, like I said earlier, but the older ones who had learned to basically shy away from it too at some point because they were humiliated or ridiculed or whatever. And so it's not just one age group, one generation or younger. No, it's not. And that I think that people will be turning back to it. I really do. In part, some of it is because of comfort. I know some people had heard, how does it go, that religion is the opiate of the masses, or that it's the opium of the people. Yeah, and like I said earlier, my thought was so. But yeah, some associate it with oppression and so on and so forth. But I really think in a time, this is the time that people are going to turn to it for various reasons. And hopefully not what I've already seen, people using it as a way. I mean, I've always seen this. I think many of us have seen this. There are some people who are going to use it to their advantage financially, especially. Yeah, and I've already seen this just recently again. Yeah, so hopefully not. But you understand what I'm saying. Anyway, I'll talk more about it another time. I'm going to wrap this one up and talk to you on another video. Bye.